Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous, hosted by Bruce Hutchin. I'm so happy you've joined us today, and you're going to find out a lot about whitetail hunting on the show. This is Whitetail Rendezvous, episode number 300. Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, thanks so much for visiting Buckwild Coffee. The best brew in the West, the best brew around the campfire, the best brew in the hunting shack, the best brew anywhere. Buckwild Coffee. Get yours today. 66. We welcome today Jake Hacker. Jake's from Ohio, and Jake owns an operation called the Everyday Outdoorsman in Ohio. And he hunts timber, he hunts agricultural land, and a little bit of suburban. So if you've ever wondered what's it like to hunt suburban bucks, listen to Jake. He's going to share that. And also, he takes a few clients every single year and helps them understand whitetails, how to become a better whitetail hunter, and more likely than not, he's going to put them in the right place at the right time so they can go home with a trophy. Nothing's guaranteed in hunting, folks. It's never too early to think about food plots. Whitetail Rendezvous has an ebook for you. Just simply text 33444 food plot to get your copy. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. Hey, we're heading out to Ohio, and Jake Hacker. Now, Jake is the owner and operator of the Everyday Outdoorsman. So, Jake, welcome to the show.
Bruce, thanks for having me, sir. I'm happy to be here.
And I'm looking forward to spending some time with you. Next fall, we get it all worked out. And Bill Hoffman, if anybody doesn't know Bill Hoffman, you ought to check him out. He's a great author, a digital author, and he's a good friend. So we're heading towards hanging out with at Jake's place for a few days next fall. Let's talk about the Everyday Outdoorsman and how you get started.
Well, so the Everyday Outdoorsman is my company that kind of encompasses everything I do, from writing to guided hunts. But the purpose of the Everyday Outdoorsman, which goes to how I got started, is to encourage people to get out there and experience hunting, experience the country, experience the world, and what all there is for hunting for the average guy. You know, you watch these shows and you see guys hunt Africa or hunt out west, and you think it's a rich guy's sport, which to a point it is. But it's something anybody can do. And, you know, as a kid, I was fortunate to get a job for a taxidermist down in Louisville, Kentucky. And I got to see, the Safari Club guys and the guys that hunted out west. And it became something I really wanted to do. And as I got a little older and, you know, I've got a normal job, I've got a normal family and a normal time frame, it was something that I really wanted to get out there and experience, is hunting the West, you know, seeing other parts of the world and just getting to do everything that was out there for me. And so I've really sat down and kind of broken down where and when and what I can do. And the whole purpose of the Everyday Outdoorsman is to encourage and help and assist other people into living the dream, because I know I'm not the only one who's got it.
And when you think about the Everyday Outdoorsman, I know you got a book coming out, and it's in process right now. Let's talk about people like you and I. I've worked hard and I've been fortunate to hunt a number of different places, but it's still always on a budget, and I can't just, write big checks and go and hunt. Let's talk about that book and why you're writing it.
So the book, and I won't release the title yet because, like I said, we're still working on some copyright stuff, but the goal of the book is to show you basically how to hunt the North American Super 10. Now, the North American Super 10 is something that Grand Slam Club Ovis and the Wild Sheep Organization came up with, that breaks down all the North American animals. There's 27 or 29 species, depending on which which chart you go by, but they break down into 10 basic species, which are, your deer, your cats, moose, sheep, goats, and so on. And that's kind of the holy grail, in my opinion, of a North American hunter is to take the Super 10, is to take one from each subspecies. So the goal of the book is to break down actually each of the 27 species in the book, and break them down on hunting opportunities, whether it's realistic or not, whether it's financially realistic or not, and help people actually read the book and plan their hunts based upon that, where you can sit down and look at the next 10, 15, 20 years and have something fun to hunt every year, but kind of work towards that big goal if that's what interests you.
Is musk ox included in that?
Musk ox is. Now, musk ox and bison are both in the same category, so you're going to take one of the two.
I did not know that. So woodland bison, yep, and then the prairie bison that we have here and musk ox are all same genus species?
They are in the same, they're not the same species, but they're in the same category in the Super 10. It's similar to, lumping together mule deer, whitetail, coos deer, black-tailed deer. They're all in the deer family. So the bison and muskox are all in that. It's actually titled Bison/Muskox by Grand Slam Club Ovis.
Okay. And so, I think back in the different things that I've done. I certainly haven't killed all 27. That's for darn sure. But, I killed a few. And why do people want to go on that quest?
Well, I mean, it's pushing yourself for one. It gives you an attainable goal that you can look forward to. For me, when I look at it, I look at the North American Super 10 and I see all of North America, and I'm going to have to hunt just about every general region, from Canada down to Texas to California, over here in Ohio. You're spread across the country. So that I love to travel and hunt, man. I love to find something every year, go find some public land and get out there with an over-the-counter tag and go hunting. And it's something else I can work forward to, something else to chase.
Well, at the Iowa Deer Classic, I was talking to Philip Vanderpool, and we agreed that, the hunt gets us on the adventure, that gets us to the memories. Yes, gets us to the harvest sometimes, not always, but it's the sunrises and the sunsets. It's the people that you meet along the way that you would never meet that guy in that corner grocery store, gas station, when you say, hey, what's the best rate to get to Williams Lake from here? Is there a quicker way? Blah, blah, blah. And you have a conversation with people. And so many times we miss having that conversation. Your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you every hunt that I've been on. And it's kind of funny you said. I was just talking to somebody yesterday about this. Every time I go hunt out west or go hunt down in North Carolina for bear or go up to Canada and hunt, wherever I hunt, I meet somebody. And I take their phone number, and we still communicate. Just texting a guy yesterday that I met on a moose hunt in Canada this past fall, and we're planning on going hunt antelope in Wyoming here in October, and just texting him, and he's going to hopefully get to bring his kids out. I hunted mule deer in Utah this year and met a guy over the internet who actually helped me, plan where to camp on public land and how to hunt those deer out there. And he's a guy. I hope he can get out here in Ohio and hunt with me. And if not, next time I go to Utah, we're going to hook up. But man, you're absolutely right. It's everywhere you go. You've got the experience of being out there on the hunt. You've got nature, and then you've got the people that you meet while you're there. And that makes it all worthwhile.
Let's switch it up to your hunting tradition. Where did that begin?
Well, I've got some family that hunted when I was younger. My uncle was a big hunter, and I always kind of looked up to him and wanted to do that. We always had the cool deer heads on the wall and something to look at during the holidays. But really, for me, we got into it. My father and I did at the same time when I was about 12 or 13 with a group of guys at church down in Taylorsville, Kentucky, and we started shooting bows together once a week, and I really bonded with a couple of the older guys down there that took me under their wings when my family was going through some hard times. And man, we whitetail hunted and turkey hunted our brains out on public land down there, and that's where it all started for me.
Share some of the early lessons learned that have stayed with you throughout your hunting career.
Well, the lesson that's always stuck with me is a good hunter is a good hunter no matter where he goes. There was a guy growing up, he used to let me hunt his place, and man, when I was young, I'd go down there and I'd sit and I'd fidget and I'd look around, and I'd hunt the wrong stand that was 20 yards away from where I was supposed to, and I'd always get busted by a deer at last light, it seemed like. And that guy'd come down and he'd wear his red flannel shirt, and he always wore a camo face mask and camo gloves and a camo hat, blue jeans and a red flannel shirt. That's what he deer hunted with a bow. And that guy killed more deer, I think, than I ever will in my entire lifetime. And he'd go sit at the same stand and he'd kill a deer. Never failed within, an hour or two of sitting at that stand. And I'd sit there and just watch in amazement. And, I didn't understand why or how when I was that young of why he was so successful. But it just boils down to knowing the animal, knowing how to hunt them, having the experience of a lifetime of mistakes and being able to apply that. And, a good hunter is a good hunter wherever they go. Whether you go out west and hunt antelope or mule deer, or whether you go up and hunt moose, or down in Texas to hunt hogs or whatever, if you're a good hunter, you're a good hunter. And if you're not a good hunter, you got to be willing to learn. And that's what's going to turn you into a good hunter. And I'm still learning. by a long shot, I'm still learning.
I think we all are. And I get schooled all the time. There's one buck and on the farm I've been hunting on and off for 50 years. And, I know he's there. He knows I'm there. And that's the problem. He knows I'm there. And I've got I've got a strategy this year. I think I'm confident. Let's put it that way. I've got to go out to Wisconsin and set my stand and over 4th of July. And I hunt from ground blind now. One, because I can't put a ladder stand up by myself, and hang-ons are gone because of my hip and my shoulder, and I shoot a crossbow. And so I'm thinking, okay, if I can put it right there, then I know during the rut, especially during the rut, I'm going to have a really good chance if the wind's right. That's the other thing, that so many times we get hung up on just, okay, I'm going to hunt the stand because I know he's coming through, and you're killing yourself if you hunt with the wind. Everybody knows they got to play the wind, but sometimes it swirls. It does a lot of different things, and it just takes one puff in the wrong direction, and just pack it in. Just leave. Your thoughts on that?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's the killer, is the wind, especially when you get talking about big mature whitetails. They, you can fool some younger deer, and you can fool some does, but those mature deer, including the does, they're gonna peg you every time. We use all kinds of products to help us out and give us an advantage. I'm a big advocate for the scent crusher stuff. I absolutely love the ozone technology, and even with that, you still got to play the wind. But conversely, we know that white-tailed deer like to walk with their wind into the nose. They like to smell what they're walking into. So that lets sometimes, especially on those old bucks, a strategy. They're going to be walking into the wind, so set up upwind of them. Let them come into you, let them try and smell you, and hope that your scent control is going to play to your advantage and put that buck in a position to be killed. A couple of years ago, I was fortunate to kill a 187-inch whitetail here in Ohio, and did just that same thing. Set up where I knew he'd be coming into the wind. My scent control beat it, and I stuck an arrow in him.
Now, were you using Scent Crusher, Ozonics, or who were you using?
Yeah, I'm using the Scent Crusher stuff. Really, really like the Scent Crusher. The bag. They got the Ozone car unit now. At the time, I just had one of the bags where you stick your clothes in there before the hunt, and it does its magic on them, man. They come out smelling like a fresh, clean rainstorm is what I tell everybody it smells like. It's raining outside right now in my house, and if I stick my head outside, it gives me that Scent Crusher gear bag smell,
Yeah, and folks, there's a lot of tools out there. So, find something that works for you. It just seems every tool or every piece of gear out there doesn't work for everybody. Sometimes I think it's operator error. But having but having said that, be scent wise. And literally, I was talking to a very good DIY hunter friend of mine. He hunts multiple states every year, and he really, he has a face mask and the hands. Okay, why? Because he doesn't want the reflection off his hands and of course your face, but he covers up that way. But everything else, he says sometimes he hunts in jeans and long sleeve shirts, not camo patterns. And he really doesn't. He doesn't care, and he doesn't have to care because he's killed so many mature bucks that he knows if he does his part right, that buck will never know he's there. And by that, how he gets into the stand, he literally stalks the stand, and he comes in completely different than the buck would expect because we're lazy human beings and we take the easiest road to our stand. He doesn't. So those are a little couple words of wisdom. Let's talk about hunting Ohio. I was in Iowa, and land of the giants is an understatement. Some of the bucks, rats I saw, it's incredible. But how Ohio's no slouch either, that's for darn sure. Let's talk about hunting mature bucks in Ohio.
Well, it's kind of a running joke for the local hunters when the rut kicks around. It's a non-resident license plate at every public land area you look at, and we tell them there's a big buck, there's a 140-inch buck behind every tree in Ohio if you ask the non-residents who come here. But there's no more here than anywhere else. We got great bucks. We've got great urban bucks, which is one thing I really enjoy hunting. We kill a lot of big urban bucks, but then we've got the big open timber bucks. Unfortunately, in Ohio, our season starts so late, we don't really get the summer pattern like they do just south of us down in Kentucky, which, in my opinion, is the absolute best time to kill a mature buck, is that first and second week of September. Fast forward from that, we've got the rut, which is, everybody knows it's the time you're going to kill your big bucks. And one way we really like to hunt them up here is what I call it's a 28-day rut theory. So starting in August, I start going out in the woods and I start looking for what we call football scrapes. They're little scrapes about the size of football, and they just pop up all over the woods. And those are usually made by the young bucks. The young bucks who sometimes haven't even shed their velvet yet. Starting in September, as the bucks start to lose their velvet, and into October, again, you're going to find those football scrapes. And they're going to pop up absolutely everywhere in the woods. They're going to pop up, and then they're going to disappear. They're not going to be revisited. They're not going to be visited by another deer. It's just a young buck getting out some aggression because he smelled something in the air. And what he has smelled in the air is a pre-estrus cycle of a doe in the area. The does are all, in our areas, they're all going to cycle together. So from one property to the next, the date may vary. However, in the property, most of the does are going to be on that 28-day, that 4-week cycle. So I know when those first football scrapes start popping up, I can count forward 30 days. And there's going to be a doe and estrus, and count forward 28 to 30 days, and there's going to be a doe and estrus. So when I see those in September, I count forward 2 cycles, and that's going to be our primary rut in Ohio. And without fail, it is the best chasing, the best seeking, the most crazy buck action that we have here, and it's regardless of the weather. Doesn't matter if it's hot, cold, windy, rainy. The bucks are going to be on their feet, and they're going to be moving.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. All in all, if you're hunting out west in 2018, GoHunt.com Insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com.
For that 2 to 4 day window.
All right, let's go back through that because this is really good content. This is really good information. And if you're not taking notes on what Jake's saying, you're really auto. So let's just go back, slow it down, and lay it out again.
Sure. So the prime time for most guys is going to be in September. That's when you're going to be out in the woods. Let's face it, most guys don't get out in June, July and scout like they should. But we're going to be out. We know where there's a population of deer. So in one set area of woods, I'm going to monitor that woods very, very heavily in the first couple weeks of September. Now, during that first couple weeks of September, at some point, I'm going to start seeing those small football scrapes, 8 to 12-inch scrapes, and they're just going to be everywhere, all over through the woods. They're not real big. They're going to be bare to the ground, and they're not going to be revisited. They're not going to be refreshed, which means you have a limited time to find them. You've got to be in the woods fairly frequently, always practicing your scent control, stuff like that, but be in the woods and find those scrapes. When I find those little football scrapes, I mark on my calendar that day, and I count ahead 28 to 32 days, 28 to 30 days, 28 to 31 days, depending on what the weather and what month it is. But I'm going to count for that many days, and that's when I want to be hunting. And the reason is those scrapes pop up because a young buck smelled a doe that's in her pre-estrus cycle. So that has signaled those bucks to start hitting the ground, to start pawing the ground, to start scraping it, because they know something's in the air. They're getting froggy, they're getting aggressive, and then it fades out and peters out because that doe's not in estrus yet. Now count ahead, 28 days, and then 28 days again, which is going to get us into the month of November or late October. And that's when our peak rut's going to be, because that doe's going to follow her natural, cycle given to her by God and by nature is 28 days. That's her estrus cycle. That's when she's going to be prime. So when she's prime, those bucks are going to be chasing, and every buck in the woods is going to be after her.
All right, folks. So this is like a sign, smoke signals. I'm trying to think of the word. So you're in the woods. You see these little dime scrapes, football scrapes. You know that in 28 days, that doe is going to come into estrus, and everybody else in the woods knows it. And so it's just it's a signature date, and you got to keep a log. If you're not keeping a log, you're not serious about deer hunting, period. But think about that. 28 days later, just count it out. Yes, there's moon phases, there's fronts that blow through, there's a lot of other data, but that doe is still going to come in estrus between 28 and 32 days, correct?
That's correct. And then one thing I stress about it is when you find those scrapes, if you're a big buck hunter and that's all you're after, I'll hunt late September here in Ohio or opening week. October, I'm not really going to be in the woods. Other than to check trail cameras, I'm staying out of my big buck areas because I don't want to mess with those bucks. If I'm in there and I find those scrapes, the first week of September, so I believe the first week of November is going to be the rut. I'll hunt September. But the month of October, I'm going to stay out there and let those woods remain calm. Let them calm down. Let the deer have their natural movement. So I'm not over pressuring the deer that I'm hunting. Even if I'm hunting an area with other hunters, they're not going to hunt my exact spots. And the deer know that. The deer still move around no matter how many people are in the woods. But I want those deer to be comfortable when the rut comes in so they can do their natural cycle in the natural way that they would do the rut. And that's going to give me the best opportunity at a big buck.
Man, you're giving some really good data here, or great content. Okay, so let's fast forward 28 days. Now, you kind of sort of know where the mature bucks are hanging out seeking, chasing, and lockdown and all those phases that everybody knows. So let's build your hit list and then go from there.
Sure. Yeah. You've got an inventory of your bucks if you're running a bunch of cameras. You've got the time to do your thing, figure out what deer you want to shoot, and really study those deer and figure out what they're doing. The most important thing you can monitor is does, because the does between the end of September and the beginning of October, or the beginning of November rather, probably aren't going to change their pattern very much depending on which part of the country you're in. Here in Ohio, the weather's not much different in September to November a lot of times. It's still 40, 50, 60 degrees and warm during the day. So those does are still going to be hitting the acorns in the woods. If you're feeding them, they're still going to be hitting the corn. The most important thing you can do is make sure you're hunting around does when that 28 to 32 days comes. The bucks will find you as long as you're with the does.
So pattern the does, and guess what? When they come into estrus, the bucks know where the does are. I mean, there's no question about it. And we spend a lot of time focusing on our hit list when actually we should focus on the different groupings of does. Which one, have twins? Which one, don't? They were barren. They weren't bred the year before. All these types of things go into your log where you say, okay, in this part of the pasture, this part of the woods, whatever, here's where they're hanging. Here's what they're eating. And the other thing, those are going to eat the highest, the best protein they can find. Why? Because they're raising kids. And so if there's a mass crop come in, fine. If there's, oats and soybeans, all our food plots, what are they hitting? When are they hitting it? And if you do that year after year, you're going to know where the does are. And so you're going to know where to set up in funnels and pinch points around those areas. And I'd like to have your take on that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And to touch base on your point with the logs, man, that is so important for anybody who wants to consistently kill whitetails, be it big whitetails, if you want to kill little ones. If you want to be consistent, keep a log. On my log, I've got the weather, I've got the moon phase, I've got wind direction, I've got barometric pressure, I've got my times, the times I see deer. It's very detailed. But if you've got that kind of stuff, you're going to be able to pattern those does, follow the does, what does doing what. And another thing that you said that's super important is to know what the does had that year. If they had twins, if they had a single, if they had triplets. Typically, what you're going to see with whitetails is if a doe has got a yearling doe with her, she's going to hit that cycle, that same 28-day cycle, 28 days after your first cycle. And that's where we get the second rut that hunters rave about, sometimes in December, is because those younger does are coming. If you've got twins, a lot of times the twins are going to be born a little bit later, at least in our area. That seems to be how they tend to be conceived, as they're a little bit smaller and they're born a little bit later. They might even be 28 days after that. As long as a buck's got antlers on his head, he can breed a doe. Those ruts will go. And it helps you plan not only your time hunting, but where you're going to hunt, when you're going to hunt, and why you're going to hunt there, if you're keeping those logs and if you're watching those does like you're talking about.
And the other thing I like to do, and I've talked to other people about it, and I'm going to do more of this year, is long distance scouting. What does that mean? Get on a hill. If you have a tower stand overlooking things, spend time in there with your camera. Spend time in there with your long glass, and watch deer. Don't hunt deer. Watch deer. Why? Because they're going to tell you everything that you need to know. Dan Johnson was on the phone. Was on the podcast. He talked about run and gunning. He watches deer. He long distance scouts them until he finds the buck he wants to go after, a buck on his hit list. And then once he watches them a couple of times and sees them in the same place, approximately the same time, and if everything's the same, which sometimes it isn't, but the wind has to be right, barometric pressure, all those type of things fall into it. But he has that first sit when he sets up on that buck in that travel route or transition zone, or where he's coming out, what time he's coming out to that bean field, all those things he figures out. He makes a set according to the wind, and he says more times than not, he will have an opportunity at that deer, an opportunity.
Yep.
It's not a slam dunk, but he's got an opportunity. So folks, start watching deer. You're really hunting them, but you're watching deer. Leave your gear at home. Take your camera. Take the best glass you have. If you don't have a spot and scope, get one. Because I live out west, and I have a spot and scope that's very heavy. But that's my best tool because I can sit on a ridge, and literally I did this in August. I glassed sheep from 3 miles away, and you can do it. I mean, and with phone scopes and everything, you put your phone scope in there, and no, you're not going to say, okay, that's a 150, that's a 180. But you're sure as heck going to know if it's a 10, what kind of spread he has. Mass is going to be hard, but start long distance scouting, and you're going to be surprised what you'll see when you're not, i.e., bow in hand, waiting in a tree stand. Take a step back, and it's hard to do, especially if you don't have hills. If you're in flat cover, you've got to get up on a cut somehow, a power line, wherever you can see a distance, a quarter mile, you know, we'll do it. And I really believe in that. And Jake, what would you want to add to that?
Patience is everything, Bruce. In everything in life, anymore, we're not patient people. We like things now. We like things on demand. We like things as soon as we can get it. And hunting is fortunately, it's not one of those things we can control or we can make it like that. We've got to work and we got to put in the time. And here in the East, we're kind of spoiled. We've got whitetail all over the place and good whitetails at that. But hunting the West made me such a better hunter here at home simply because it taught me patience. The eagerness to go out West makes me pull up things like Google Earth or Bing Maps and start looking and doing aerial scouting, and figuring out, hey, this is a ridge, this is a saddle, this is a topographical location that I want to be at and I want to watch. And then going out there and getting out there a few days before season starts and scouting even just for those few days. You really learn the animals much better than you would by picking a spot in the map and just running in there and hunting it. And then bringing that back home and applying that to whitetail hunting here in the Midwest, it totally changes the expectation versus reality. The whole thing that you're going to bring back when you're chasing these big whitetails or whatever you're hunting, even if you're hunting out West, you've got to be able to have that. I look at guys like Guy Eastman and Mike Eastman and watch some of their shows, read some of their articles where they're literally scouting, watching deer with spotting scopes for maybe 10 to 14 days before ever even making a stalk on that animal. They know everything about the animal before they go in and make a stalk, and that's a trait that I envy from hunting whitetails or hunting out West.
And one thing I like to add to that, typically when you find big bucks, big bulls out West, if they're in the hardest place to get to, very few people will get there. And it's just true because it's hard. And we're not all Cameron Hayes. I sure as heck am not Cameron Hayes or even close. And there's many other great athletic hunters. But guess what I've learned? If I'm patient and if I study that deer, I see, what time of day he gets up to stretch. I see how far he has to drop down for food. I see where he's watering. I see all those things. And then when everything's right that I can control, the weather, the clouds, the wind, do I want sun at my back? Yes. And so all those factors come in, and then you take your shot. And I'm talking about, mule deer that are big, over 180, and some are approaching 200. And they always got their buddies hanging out, so you get a lot of eyes. But it's a chess match. And, I'm talking a lot because I just want to share some of the things living out West that you can transfer to the East. And one thing, when I first started hunting out West, I lived in Wisconsin, and I'd go out and hunt Colorado bow hunting, and guys I'd meet, they'd go, man, you Wisconsin hunters, man, you're so good. Why? Because we hunted 40 acres and we were patient. And I like what Jake said at the beginning of the show, is that if you're a good hunter in your backyard, hunting squirrels and hunting rabbits, you can be a good hunter any place in the world. Your thoughts?
It's absolutely right. Some of the best hunters I've met are from, those small backyard or public land hunters here in Ohio. Man, our public land is so terrible here in Ohio, the way it's managed, to the amount that we have. The guys that go in public land consistently kill 125, 140 inch bucks. I would love to take some of those guys out West and let them have a field day on, the millions and millions of acres of public land that they can go on and play their game of chess with the deer. It's a whitetail. A whitetail's got everything. It's got the eyes, it's got the nose. You go out West and you hunt antelope. You can't make a mistake with their eyes; they're going to bust you. A whitetail is no different. You're just a lot closer. If a whitetail's in a field a mile away, it's not going to bust you like an antelope will. But then you go and hunt mule deer in the same area, and a mule deer is going to bust you with his nose the second a thermal current changes, or just with the slightest little thing, it's gonna pop you. And a whitetail's not as strong as either of those in those categories, but it's got it all combined. And bringing that patience back home is so important. And practicing that really leads to a lot better success.
Jake, I can't believe it, but we burned through our interview, and I'm going to have to get you back on before the fall. That's for darn sure.
Absolutely.
So why don't you just take a minute, give some shout outs, and then we got to wrap the show.
Yeah, sure. So everybody, you guys can check me out on my Facebook page. It's facebook.com/The Everyday Outdoorsman. You can message me there. If you want to see some examples of my log entries, send me a message. I'll send them over to you. I'll send you a little template you can use to make your own whitetail log in the woods. We also run some guided deer hunts out here in Ohio, a very limited number. They're small camps, but we hunt big woods. We hunt urban areas and kind of run it like a how-to camp for the newer guys and a real laid-back camp for the guys who've been doing it a while. And you can check that out at teohunt.com.
Thanks so much for that, Jake, and I look forward to connecting with you this fall. So on behalf of thousands of listeners across North America, Jake Hacker, and folks, he's a golf hacker. He's not a computer hacker. Jake Hacker, thank you so much for being a guest. Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, thanks so much for visiting Buckwild Coffee. The best brew in the West, the best brew around the campfire, the best brew in the hunting shack, the best brew anywhere. Buckwild Coffee. Get yours today. On Whitetail Rendezvous.
Hey, thanks for having me, Bruce. I really appreciate it, man.
At the right time. Hey, on the next episode, we're going to head down south and we're going to connect with Taylor Hance and Chris Mahoney. What makes them so special? Well, they call themselves Whitetail Widowmakers. So listen to the show and they're going to tell you all about it. They're quite a couple, and I was privileged.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.